Dan Illman, Mike Beer, taking a look at race number 10 on Risen Star Saturday at the Fairgrounds. It's the Grade 3 Fairground Stakes. Let's take a look at this field of turf horses getting set to go 9 furlongs. It's a big field, Mike, but there is a lot of speed signed on.
Yeah, that's what I thought too, Dan. There were plenty of horses who looked like not only did they want to be sort of on the lead, but a bunch of them drew to the outside too. It feels like they got to come out of there running.
Horses like the number 11 Sailing Solo, the 13 Spectacular Gem, and of course, down towards the inside, the number 1 Wound Tight, bringing that Southern California speed. It should be a hot pace. We'll see if Timeform US agrees with that assessment as we throw up the Timeform US pace projector, and they do. Red bar situation, they believe it's a fast pace, and I kind of agree that Sailing Solo is the speed of the speed.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised to see him make the front in this race. But again, there are at least two horses drawn to even further out than he is to his outside that, I mean, they just want the lead and they don't really have many other options than to come out of there running.
Now, Wound Tight has won rating in the past, and I wonder if Kent DeZormo is going to break running with this pretty fast horse and then try to maybe sit a pocket trip in behind the speeds. Last time out, he did not have to do that. We'll watch the Unusual Heat Turf Classic at Santa Anita. He stepped right to the front under Abel Cedillo, and he just runs away from this field in the upper stretch. I'm not sure this was the strongest field in the world, but he's been very consistent from a buyer's standpoint, mid-90s, and he deserves his chance in this graded race. But if they go fast early, he could be in trouble if he's close to that pace.
Yeah, it could compromise him if the race is run that way, but I won't knock his form. He's 2 for 2 at this distance, too, so you don't have to worry about him stretching out. And he does have the advantage of being drawn inside, Dan. As you say, DeSormo can come out running. If they clear him, and then he can maybe sit a trip.
The number 2 Synchrony is going for a three-peat in this race. In his most recent start, the City of Hope Mile, I don't think he had the trip at all. Let's turn into the stretch there. He's down towards the inside in the blue cap. He's saved ground throughout. It looks like maybe this pace is going to start to fall apart a little bit, but Joe Talamo just has nowhere to go on the number 2 Synchrony. You see, he has a little bit of run, but again, Mike, I think he was blocked, and I think he was compromised pretty badly here.
Yeah, he was. He was certainly going to be closer. Whether he was going to win or not, I don't know, but he was going to be a lot closer. The one thing to keep in mind with Synchrony is that's kind of his trip. They like to save ground with this horse and try and make runs up the inside. I don't know if that's him or if that's just how the things have worked out, but either way, it compromised him that time. I personally, Dan, think he's the horse to beat, and I think he's the best horse in this race, and a fast pace only enhances his chances.
And he's won this race off the layoff the last 2 years, so we know he runs well fresh. The number 3 is Botswana. This horse made the pace last time out, going 1 1/8. He just couldn't last in a non-winners of 2 other than. They've tried him in graded stakes races before with mixed results. This just looks like a tough spot, especially considering the pace scenario.
Yeah, I agree, and it's not like he's some kind of big closer either. He's another horse who at least wants to be close to the pace. That's not going to help him.
Factor this is another horse that likes to be close to the pace. He pushed the issue last time out in the Colonel E.R. Bradley. He finished an okay third that day. He's probably at his absolute best when he makes the lead, and I'm not sure that's the case here, but take a Brad Cox horse lightly at your own peril.
Yeah, I think that's true. He does go for a very good trainer. I don't really look at him as a graded stakes kind of turf horse. So we'll see what happens. I think he's one of 6 coming back in here out of the Bradley. To me, really the only one that I would want out of that race is the horse that won it.
And that is the number 5, Don't Blame Rocket. Norm Cassie's done a sensational job with this horse. He claimed him for $50,000. He has won 3 consecutive races, including beating 5 of these common foes in the Colonel E.R. Bradley. Did he get a nice trip that day, though, just tracking that duel while saving ground, easing out 3 wide?
He got a perfect trip in that race, and it just wasn't that strong a field from top to bottom. And I think this is a much tougher spot for him. Listen, I don't want to take anything away from him. He's improved since he's been claimed by Norm Cassie, but he just had all the best of it last time. You know, listen, maybe he'll get another trip like that one in here, and he is in good form right now. But I'd probably stand against this horse this time.
But we know he can kick. We'll go back to his race 2 starts back at Kentucky Downs. This is just a $25,000 starter allowance race, but there was some pace and some hitting in this race, and we see him starting to get into the picture right now. He's just pulled himself into 3rd, and he's going to pull himself past these 2 horses in front to win nicely, this time under Julien Leperoux, who rode him in the Bradley and will ride him in the Fairgrounds Handicap. Perhaps another good pace scenario coming. Classic Covey is the number 6 going out for trainer Bill Mott. This horse, you're going to have to deal with a little bit of a layoff here. It's kind of been the story of his career, hasn't it, Mike? Just when it looks like Classic Covey is getting ready to reach his potential, and there's potential, he's stymied by another layoff line.
Yeah, it is true. He's had trouble staying on the racetrack. When he's on the racetrack, he's actually pretty good. He is another horse who likes to sit it out and make one run, so potentially he'll get the right setup in this race. And listen, they don't really try graded stakes with him. They don't try stakes with him at all that much. I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that he's got a lot of layoffs. But listen, the one time they tried a graded race with him was the Pan Am. He ran really well that day, and that was 1.5 miles. I think that's even too far for this horse. This is a much better distance for him.
Let's watch his most recent race at 1 1/16 at Belmont on October the 13th. He's last, and it's not like there's a tremendous pace in this race. He still has a tremendous amount of work to do here with 1/8 of a mile to come. Joel Rosario gets into Classic Covey, and he comes storming down the outside to get it done. And I thought this was a pretty decent field. Aquaphobia was in very good form at the time.
Yeah, and especially when you consider the horses that he runs down were both right up on a relatively easy pace most of the way, and he came and gunned them down late. This is a tougher race, Dan. He's facing better horses here, but he's a closer who fits this race very well, and I think he's a little underrated.
A true closer is right next door, the number 7, Hanovi. He is going to be lingering near the back of the pack for trainer Brendan Walsh, hoping for an explosive pace, a complete meltdown, and then he'll come and try to pick up the pieces. It just looks like he's reached his plateau recently as a horse that runs Beyer speed figures in the mid-80s. That's good enough sometimes in optional claiming races, probably not good enough to win this graded event.
Yeah, and he's got his work cut out for him, too, trying to outkick horses like Synchrony in the lane because he's just not that kind of horse.
Tone Broke, the number 8, won 2/3 of the Canadian Triple Crown last year, including the third leg, the Breeders' Stakes, at 1.5 miles. Then they ran him in the Jockey Club Derby at Belmont after that. It was a pretty tough field. You had a thread of blue in there. The runner-up shipped overseas to win a stakes race. They tried him on dirt last time out, and while I know he won the Prince of Wales on dirt, I just think he's better on turf and or synthetic. I also think he might even want more ground than this 9 furlongs.
I agree. I think this is the right surface for him. I sort of think he's interesting with Asmussen sort of taking a shot with him in this race because I feel like that's what they're doing, taking a shot. But he's eligible to improve, and he ran some pretty good races as a 3-year-old.
Captivating Moon, the number 9, good form on turf, good form on dirt. He is also cross-entered in the Mineshaft Stakes on dirt. It is uncertain right now as to what race he is going to run on. Last time out in the Bradley, I thought he got the right setup from a pace standpoint, Mike. The winner might have gotten the best trip, but this horse got a setup and he just couldn't seal the deal.
Yeah, I was a little disappointed in that race because I think he's better than that, Dan. We'll see if he can sort of rebound. I'm not sure he's good enough to win this race. I could see using him underneath, though, because he is a one-run closer who might get a setup, and on his best day, he's pretty good.
We've seen that in the past. Now, maybe it's been in the distant past, a couple of years ago, but races like the American Derby, the American Turf, the Transylvania, good races. He picked up pieces. I think he was always the kind of horse where we said, there's a race for Captivating Moon one of these days. It hasn't exactly panned out on turf. Maybe this is the spot at a big price. Space Mountain is the 10, and he also didn't really fire in the Bradley. Got bounced around a little bit coming out of the gate, but I don't really think that's enough of an excuse to make for him. I just wonder if he's in the form he needs to be in right now to beat this field.
Yeah, I didn't think that he was, and I sort of felt like he was an interesting claim for Maker. I always had a little thing for this horse, and I thought, you know what, maybe this is one of those ones that Maker will take and really get him over the top. It hasn't really happened. I think he's something like 2 for 12 since Maker claimed him. He's just got to do better.
The 11 is sailing solo. He is the projected pace setter, according to Timeform US. He made the lead in the Bradley. He was pushed hard in that race, and he paid the price. I'm a little bit concerned about 1 1/8 miles. I know he's won at 1 1/8 miles, but that was an off-the-turf maiden race over a sloppy track at the fairgrounds. He can run fast. Let's go back to his race 3 back at Hawthorne, 1 1/16. He had everything his own way in this race. Just look at these fractions. 49 3 for the half. He's supposed to do this if he's on the lead. He came back to win with a big number at the fairgrounds with a similar situation, but fast pace, 1 1/8 miles, I'm worried.
Yeah, me too. I mean, in this race right here, he's just too fast for that field early. He's not too fast for this field early. He is going to have to go all in if he wants to wire this field. It's a really tall order for him.
Midnight Tea Time, second last time out in the Bradley. Nice effort. 93 buyer. Got the right setup. Thought Adam Beskiza gave him a pretty good trip to finish second behind Don't Blame Rocket. He's in consistent form right now. He is a solid enough turf horse. I think a mile and an eighth is probably more of what he wants than a mile and a 16th. Yeah. But this is kind of a lousy post position for a horse that often settles for minor awards.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the positive is he's just going to sit it out anyway, so he doesn't really have to lose too much ground being wide. It's just a question of whether he's good enough. I thought he ran well last time, Dan, but it didn't make me want to bet him back in this race.
First start as a 4-year-old for the 13 Spectacular Gem. This horse was a multiple stakes winner last year. Actually won one stake, was disqualified from another. I liked the change in dimension that he showed last time out in the Woodchopper, because this is a horse that has shown big speed in the past. That was taken away from him at the start of the race when he got banged around in the Woodchopper. He came with a nice run to finish second. We all know that Sir Winston finished last in that race, and of course the Belmont Stakes winner came back to win on his preferred dirt surface. Spectacular Gem, I think, is the kind of horse that maybe with that new running style, maybe can work out a mid-pack trip. Maybe he is not the need the lead type anymore. But again, from this outside post, James Graham's got to make something work.
Yeah, all that stuff that you just mentioned made me take a second look at him too, because listen, he certainly really got good at the end of his 3-year-old campaign. He was running one good race after another, and then showing that he could make up ground from off the pace in his most recent start. Those are all good things for this horse.
I think the Great Day is a little bit dirtied up, Mike, for Nacho Correas. This horse, I thought, had a tough trip in his North American debut, the Prince George City. He was in behind horses most of the stretch, just completely stymied that day, went 5th. In the Arlington Handicap, he caught a very sharp horse, Bandua, who basically controlled that race. Then they shipped him out to Southern California, stretched him out to 1 3/8, which is a bit far. He then finally got a spot, the Durham Cup. It was over a synthetic surface, but it was at this distance, and he got a great ride. Patrick Husbands went to the front. He backed down the fractions. He's on the lead right now. He holds off Special Forces, a horse that would come back to Beyer 99 in winning the Grade 2 Autumn throw at his last race against Tom's d'Etat on dirt.
Yeah, he ran well in this race here. It was a good ride, though. Slow early and fast late, and he just held on. But as you sort of alluded to, his turf form prior to that was pretty good. I wish he had a better post, Dan, because I think he's an interesting horse in this race. He is hung out to dry.
He has really hung out to dry. I'd love to use him somewhere in the multis. Let's throw up our picks for the Grade 3 Fairground Stakes. I just think Synchrony's going to get the setup. This is his race. This is his course. He runs well fresh. You've always been a fan of Classic Covey. We know he has ability. It's always been about getting him on the track. Bill Mott can get him ready off layoffs.
He can. I just think it's interesting that he's here. This is where Mott's going to run him, because they don't take shots with him very often. I'm assuming he's doing well, and this race is going to set up the right way for him. Whether he's good enough or not, I don't know, Dan. I'm not way against your top pick. I think he is way the horse to beat, but I'll take a small shot with Classic Covey.
But he's going to take money, Synchrony. He might be a bit of an underlay in here. I'll go 2-5, 14, 11. You'll go 6-2, 9, 14. It's the Grade 3 Fairgrounds at the Fairgrounds on Risen Star Saturday at the Fairgrounds. Approximate post time at the Fairgrounds is 4:32 Central. Good luck.